My rather difficult sister-in-law, Joanna, unexpectedly invited my 4-year-old son, Egon, to an adventure park with her 5-year-old daughter, Rachel, for a cousin outing. I agreed, happy for the children. However, 2 hours later, Rachel called me, crying, saying her mom claimed it was a little prank, but Egon wouldn't wake up. Panicked, I immediately called the police and rushed over. What unfolded next left Joanna trembling with fear. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and my relationship with my husband, Jay's 33 family, has always been strained. We've been married for 6 years. My in-laws, who are quite religious, haven't warmed up to me because of our cultural differences and my agnostic leanings. They wrongly believe I influenced Jay's departure from their faith, a decision he made long before we met. Their preconceptions have created distance between us, though we maintain a cordial relationship. After Egon's birth, things improved, particularly with my mother-in-law. We communicated more, understood each other's viewpoints, and smoothed over some of the tension. My father-in-law has mostly stayed out of the family drama, treating me respectfully and not interfering in our lives, which I appreciate. Both of them adore Egon, and he enjoys spending time with them. While our relationship began frostily, it's much better now, and I see how much this improvement means to Jay, who remains close to his parents despite their differing beliefs. The real issue lies with Jay's sister, Joanna, 40. 2 years ago, her husband left her after discovering her affair with his best friend. He fiercely fought for custody of Rachel, and now only sees her on weekends. It was a tumultuous period for the family. While Jay and I didn't condone Joanna's actions, we supported her as family. During that time, I offered to care for Rachel while Joanna navigated the legal proceedings and found new housing and employment. It wasn't a burden. Egon was around the same age, and having a playmate benefited both children. This arrangement lasted about a month, and Rachel and Egon grew attached to each other. When Rachel returned to Joanna full-time, she was understandably upset. Joanna, however, misinterpreted this as Rachel preferring me, which wasn't true. Rachel simply enjoyed playing with Egon. I tried explaining this to Joanna, suggesting playdates to maintain their bond, but she was emotionally volatile and accused me of trying to steal her daughter. Things escalated, with Jay reminding Joanna of our support during her difficult time. She then limited contact, which saddened me because the children suffered. Unbeknownst to Joanna, her ex-husband, Noel, would bring Rachel to our house on weekends so she could see Egon. We all knew Rachel might reveal this, but we felt it was worth the risk. When the truth emerged, it caused more drama, requiring my in-laws' intervention to persuade Joanna to prioritize Rachel's well-being. Thankfully, she eventually agreed to let the cousins play together again. The children adore each other, like siblings. It's heartwarming to see their close bond, especially since Jay and I decided to have only one child. I always felt it was sad for a child to grow up without siblings, but this arrangement gives Egon a close cousin. They take turns visiting each other's homes, sometimes at Joanna's, sometimes at Noel's, and often at my in-laws. For the past 2 years, things have been relatively calm with Joanna. The children's happiness is my priority. However, yesterday, everything changed. Jay's been away on business for a week, leaving Egon and me at home. My in-laws are also on vacation. That's when Joanna's unexpected invitation and the subsequent terrifying phone call from Rachel threw everything into chaos again. I'm filled with dread and a sense of failure as a mother for not anticipating Joanna's lingering resentment. I felt terribly ill 2 days ago, running a fever and experiencing nausea. It wasn't serious, but I was weak. A friend came over to help. It was Rachel's turn to come over to our house, but I lacked the energy to manage 2 children, so I called Joanna and canceled, explaining my illness. She kindly offered to take Egon for the day so I could rest. I was immensely grateful, as this would allow Egon to spend time with Rachel, and I could recover. We agreed she would pick up Egon and take both children to the adventure park, followed by a sleepover at her place. This would tire them out and allow me a full day to myself. Joanna's offer of help was unusual, and I mistakenly interpreted it as genuine concern. The following day, Joanna arrived around noon and picked up Egon. I asked her to keep me updated, but she assured me there was nothing to worry about. The moment they left, I collapsed into bed, still feverish and needing sleep. I knew Egon was safe with his aunt, so I had no reason for anxiety. I don't know when I fell asleep, but at 2:50 p.m., a call from Joanna's number woke me. I later realized she'd called earlier, but I'd slept through it. When I answered, I heard crying on the other end, and my heart stopped. Egon was covered in hives, his face and eyes swollen. I rushed him to the emergency room, furious. I wanted to confront Joanna, but Egon's care was my immediate priority. The doctors inquired about allergies, and I explained Egon's nut allergy, which everyone is usually careful about. They asked if he'd accidentally ingested nuts, but since he hadn't been with me, I deferred to Joanna. She denied giving him anything with nuts. The doctor gave us a strange look and said Egon needed observation and monitoring. That's when Rachel burst into tears, confessing that Mommy gave him my peanut butter sandwich, even when I told her he couldn't eat it. I saw red. I slapped Joanna right there in the hospital. She tried retaliating, but the nurses restrained her while the doctor checked Egon. Joanna attempted to pull Rachel away, but Rachel clung to my leg, sobbing uncontrollably. I felt terrible for her, knowing Joanna might lash out later. I called Noel, Rachel's father, and told him she was safe but needed him at the hospital. I wanted the right parent present. Joanna protested and caused a scene, but the nurses threatened to escort her out if she continued. Noel arrived, and Rachel ran to him. He looked at Joanna and me, sensing something serious had occurred. After a few hours, Egon was stable. The doctors explained that the allergic reaction was under control, but stressed the importance of vigilance regarding his diet. Egon would stay overnight for observation and be discharged the next day. Noel offered me a ride home, but I insisted on discussing what happened with both Joanna and Rachel present, meaning Noel needed to stay as well. We went to a diner to eat, and Joanna's explanation infuriated me. I had calmed down somewhat, but her words made my blood boil. I first asked Rachel what happened. She glanced nervously at her glaring mother. Noel intervened, assuring Rachel she needed to be honest and that he would protect her. Joanna tried disrupting, accusing us of bullying her daughter. I told her to be quiet and let Rachel speak, that her intimidation tactics wouldn't work. Eventually, Rachel recounted the events. Joanna had given them money to buy sandwiches. Rachel chose peanut butter, while Egon selected mixed fruit jam. On their way back, Egon asked for a bite of Rachel's sandwich, but she refused, knowing he couldn't have peanut butter. Everyone in the family, including Egon, is aware of his allergy, so I was surprised he'd asked. I was grateful Rachel hadn't given in. She said Egon looked disappointed, but didn't argue. Upon returning to Joanna's actions were incomprehensible. Why she was alone with 2 young children was a mystery. Joanna questioned Rachel about Egon's sullen behavior, learning he desired a piece of Rachel's sandwich. This sparked Joanna's anger, leading her to lecture Rachel about sharing with her cousin and proper upbringing. Rachel tried explaining that Egon had a peanut allergy, a fact confirmed by their aunt, but Joanna dismissed her concerns. A struggle ensued as Rachel resisted Joanna's attempts to force the sandwich on Egon. Joanna resorted to name-calling, labeling her daughter greedy and snatching the sandwich. Both girls were in tears, with Rachel pleading that Egon would become ill, recalling their aunt's warning. Joanna, however, insisted it was a harmless prank. Despite Egon's tearful protests and desire to go home, Joanna force-fed him the sandwich. The narrator was filled with rage, barely restraining herself from physically attacking Joanna. Rachel, visibly shaken, clung to Noel, expressing fear of her mother. Joanna's dismissive scoffing prompted a defensive response from the narrator, asserting her belief in Rachel's account. Joanna retorted with condescending remarks about believing a 5-year-old over an adult. Exhausted, the narrator declared that Joanna's refusal to explain would be interpreted as an admission of guilt, and actions would be taken accordingly. Joanna's arrogant claim of power was met with a stern warning. Egon's well-being was paramount, and Joanna was unaware of Jay's potential reaction. Panic ensued, with Joanna backtracking and claiming Rachel was lying, offering a rambling explanation. The narrator, refusing to listen further, stated that Joanna had squandered her opportunity to explain and would now face Jay's wrath. Leaving Noel and Joanna to deal with the situation, the narrator departed, feeling guilty about leaving Rachel, but emotionally drained. Gratitude for Rachel's life-saving call was immense, coupled with a desire to protect her from her mother's frightening behavior. On the way back, Jay was informed of everything, resulting in his immediate return home. Egon was discharged, appearing tired, but otherwise well. Jay's unwavering anger towards Joanna was evident. He vowed never to forgive her intentional act, recognizing the severity of Egon's allergy and Joanna's blatant disregard for Rachel's warnings. He stressed the deliberate malice behind Joanna's actions, emphasizing her dangerous nature. The gravity of the situation sunk in, forcing the narrator to confront Joanna's true character. Initial thoughts of informing the family were dismissed by Jay, who advocated for more drastic measures. He urged the narrator to recognize Joanna's disregard for their son's safety and the potential for future harm. Joanna's actions were not a mistake, but a deliberate act of malice, necessitating protective measures. The realization of Joanna's dangerous nature and the need for decisive action was overwhelming. Update. The past few days had been a whirlwind of stress and activity, making updates an afterthought. Jay's return brought immense relief. Egon, discharged and seemingly recovered, slept soundly. Jay confirmed his unwavering stance against Joanna, emphasizing the unforgivable nature of her deliberate act. He stressed the severity of Egon's allergy and Joanna's conscious disregard for his safety. The narrator's suggestion of informing the family was met with strong opposition. Jay insisted on more impactful consequences, urging the narrator to recognize the malicious intent behind Joanna's actions and the potential for future harm. He emphasized the need to view Joanna as a threat, requiring decisive action to protect their family. The weight of this realization and the daunting task ahead was heavy. Rachel Jay inquired about Rachel's whereabouts, and I explained that Noel had likely taken her for the weekend. This provided a few days with Noel, hopefully allowing Joanna to calm down so Rachel wouldn't bear the brunt of her mother's anger. Jay contacted Noel to check on Rachel, learning she was still quite distressed from the previous day and refusing to return to her mother. Jay suggested this was the opportune moment to contact Child Protective Services, CPS, arguing that no child should experience such fear of a parent. I briefly considered the possibility that Rachel's fear stemmed from a fabricated story, perhaps a 5-year-old's unintentional mix-up about the sandwiches, leading to a fear of reprimand. Perhaps Joanna had played along to avoid disrupting the children's playdates. However, I couldn't reconcile this with the level of detail in Rachel's account. I struggled to believe that Joanna, knowing Egon's allergies, would intentionally give him the wrong sandwich. It seemed irrational, especially given her past behavior. We contacted Noel again, asking if Joanna had confessed. He revealed she had, breaking down and admitting everything during a secretly recorded conversation, which he initially described as too distressing to share. We requested the recording regardless. In it, we distinctly heard Joanna's confession. She claimed not to understand her actions, but admitted to them nonetheless. Noel was enraged, questioning why she hadn't sought emergency care herself. Joanna stated she couldn't afford the medical expenses. He reminded her that Rachel's call had saved Egon's life. Joanna sobbed apologies repeatedly, but I felt no sympathy. The day's stress had almost made me forget the gravity of the situation. If Rachel hadn't been resourceful enough to call, Egon might have died. I owe that child my son's life, and felt obligated to protect her from her mother. We contacted CPS, detailing our concerns for Rachel's safety. We explained that Joanna's delayed response due to financial constraints made us question Rachel's well-being in her care. The officer documented our report and inquired about the existing custody arrangement, which we explained. 2 days later, officers visited Joanna. She sent a hostile text accusing us of orchestrating the visit and threatening Egon. I blocked her, but Jay confronted her, vowing to protect Rachel. We informed my in-laws of the situation. Initially, they made excuses for Joanna, but the recording silenced them. I remain unaware and unconcerned about their relationship with Joanna, but both Jay and I have severed ties with her. We hope CPS will remove Rachel from her care, though the absence of overt neglect or abuse makes the outcome uncertain. We believe Joanna will create a toxic environment for Rachel. CPS has placed Rachel in Noel's permanent custody. The custody agreement was formally modified, sending Joanna into a rage, not from missing Rachel, but from losing the substantial child support payments she relied on. Noel's care will be less financially demanding, though that isn't a concern for him. Rachel is now receiving therapy for nightmares stemming from the incident. Egon has recovered well, with little memory of the event. He describes his time with Rachel and his aunt as fun, highlighting the hospital trip, I can't comprehend such resentment towards a child. My mother-in-law is distressed, not specifically about Aeon, but about Joanna losing custody. I don't understand her continued sympathy. My father-in-law, initially skeptical, is now furious and has apologized for doubting us. I understand his initial hesitation to accept that one child could intentionally endanger another's. Rachel and Aeon continue to see each other regularly. We want to reassure Rachel that she acted appropriately and couldn't have done more. Rachel continues to blame herself for the incident, and it's truly heartbreaking to witness. She even created apology cards for N, J, and me, a possession I deeply treasure. I dedicate as much time to her as possible. Call me traditional, but I firmly believe a child requires a maternal presence, something Rachel has always lacked. While Joanna is technically a mother, I question her maternal capabilities. Her actions towards Anne demonstrate this. Someone capable of such behavior lacks that inherent compassionate instinct. I anticipate criticism for this opinion, but it is what it is. We're striving to create a sense of normalcy for the children, though things are far from normal. Joanna has attempted contact with Jay and me, according to my mother-in-law, but she's blocked on all platforms. This self-inflicted headache is unnecessary. She subtly tries to mediate, but every attempt has been rejected. Both Jay and I are losing patience with her. She either understands the situation, or we sever ties completely. I can't tolerate her attempts to reconcile us as a family. Update 3. Joanna attempted to take Rachel from school. Fortunately, the school was aware of the ongoing issues and immediately contacted Noel. Rachel is safe and refuses to be with her mother. Noel is considering a restraining order, though he's hesitant. Joanna is, after all, Rachel's mother, and that's unchangeable. It's a chaotic situation, and I'd prefer to avoid the drama. However, I acknowledge that my call to CPS initiated it. I maintain my belief that Joanna isn't a suitable parent, and now the situation has escalated, becoming serious and potentially criminal, endangering everyone involved. It's impossible to predict her next move. They're working towards a resolution, and if unsuccessful, a restraining order is the only recourse. I hope it doesn't come to that, but if it does, the blame rests solely with Joanna.